What's good, you guys, and welcome back to the Ricky and Nikki Accounting YouTube channel. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button because we talk about all things financial literacy and we drop a lot of gems that will help you not only save on taxes, but help you fix your credit and just overall just help you start to build and find other ways to make income, especially passive income. But what this video is about today is the one big beautiful bill. We're a little over 2 months since this new tax bill has passed, and there's still a lot of confusion. I get questions about different topics within this tax bill damn near every day. So I want to talk about the 8 proposals, the major proposals that he, and by he I mean Donald Trump, spoke about during the entire campaign. And I'm going to talk about what he initially proposed, what was delivered 100%, what got changed, and what just flat out didn't make it in this bill. So without further ado, let's dive in with the first proposal, and that's going to be no tax on tips. So during the campaign, he was pushing this a lot, mentioning it at pretty much every single rally, but he was saying it as he wanted to completely eliminate tax on tips. Now that did happen, it was passed, but it wasn't completely given to him the way he proposed it. So what actually was delivered on this is you are allowed to deduct up to $25,000 per year in tips. So yes, it was passed, but it wasn't no tax on tips because there still will be taxes on tips if it's above 25K. So yes, it is a big win for people who work in a service-based industry where they receive most of their income through tips, but we didn't get the full promise that he initially wanted to do, which was the no taxes on 100% of your tipped income. And here's a quick example of how that breaks down. So let's say you earn wages of $35,000 and then you earn tips of $20,000. The current tax system before the bill passed, you would have had to pay taxes on $55,000. The 35K from your wages plus that 20K, that's a $55,000 that you have to pay taxes on. Now, with this new tax bill in place, with the same numbers, 35K in wages, 20K in tips, you only have to pay taxes on that 35K. You don't pay taxes on that 20K worth of tips. So your taxable income is only 35K, which for workers who are in the service industry is a major tax savings. Now with that, let's move into the second biggest proposal that he spoke about, which was no tax on overtime. And again, this was something he spoke about damn near at every rally. And he also proposed that he wants no cap, that he wanted all overtime income to be tax free. Now, did we get no tax on overtime? Yes, but of course, just like with no tax on tips, there is a cap. So we did get it, but not 100% what he proposed. So what we ended up getting was a $12,500 cap. So you're able to deduct 12.5K every single year of income from your overtime, from employer mandated overtime, I should say. So if you're somebody who works a lot of hours, you're in healthcare, you're in whatever it is where you're working a crazy amount of overtime hours, this is going to benefit you. Now let's go over a quick example with this one as well, so you can understand how the numbers actually work. So let's say you made $60,000 and then you also made $15,000 in overtime. With Trump's original proposal, you only would have been paying taxes on that 60K, that full 15K, that everything worth of overtime, you wouldn't pay taxes on. But since that's not what we got, let's go over what the actual numbers would be. So you have the 60,000 worth of wages, you have $15,000 worth of overtime, and then what was passed was 12.5K of a deduction. So you deduct 12.5K from that 15,000 and that leaves you with $2,500. So you will be paying taxes on $62,500 because you have the wages of 60,000 plus that $2,500 of overtime that you have to pay taxes on. And depending on your tax bracket, you could save upwards of $2,000 worth of taxes on overtime. Now let's move on to the third proposal, which was honestly probably one of the biggest proposals that he was pushing. I'll call it the big three because between no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, this one was always brought up with those two, and it was no tax on Social Security. Donald Trump wanted a complete elimination of taxes on Social Security, but unfortunately, that is not what we got. What we ended up getting was a $6,000 increase on the standard deduction for seniors ages 65 and older. Now, an increase in the standard deduction is great, but it won't be as significant as tax savings as it would have been if they would have completely got rid of taxes on Social Security. Now let's move on to the fourth proposal, which is one that was actually delivered on and it exceeded what Donald Trump asked for. And that proposal was middle class tax cuts. And how is he cutting taxes for the middle class? By proposing to extend his 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and adding additional middle class tax relief. They added an additional 15% tax cut for American citizens who make between $30,000 and $80,000. That additional 15% tax cut wasn't proposed. Donald Trump never proposed that during his campaign. It was added during that legislative process when it was going back and forth between the House of Representatives and the Senate. You may be wondering, what is this extra 15% coming from? Now, here are a few of the ways that's going to be happening. The child tax credit got increased from $2,000 to $2,200. The standard deduction increased. There's a new auto loan deduction, but not your actual auto loan. It's going to be the interest portion. You're now going to be able to write off the interest paid on your auto loan, but that's capped at $10,000. They also added expansions on savings account limits, and they added a new savings account for newborns. So children born between 2025 and 2028 will automatically be given a savings account known as the Trump account, and the government is going to put $1,000 in every single child's Trump account, and the parents are allowed to contribute up to $5,000 per year, and this money is invested. Think of it as a IRA. It works the same exact way. Now let's move on to the fifth proposal that he made, which was increasing the SALT deduction. Now, during his campaign, he didn't necessarily say he was going to increase the SALT deduction, state and local taxes, for those of you who don't know what that means. But what he wanted was a relief for families in high tax states that were hurt by the SALT cap. Now, what we actually ended up getting, now, before I even tell you what we got, this one was probably one of the most difficult to get passed. This was the one that kept holding up the bill. But what we ended up getting was an increase of the SALT deduction. Now it went from $10,000, which actually in the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that Trump passed, he's the one that capped it at $10,000. But it got increased to $40,000 for individuals who make under $500,000. Now, this is a major win for middle class families, especially families who live in New York, California, Massachusetts, Connecticut, the four of the highest tax states in America. Real quick, let's go over an example so you can actually see how much this is going to impact middle class families. So let's say you make $80,000 a year and you live in New York. You will be paying $6,000 in state taxes, $15,000 in property taxes, which is $21,000 worth of taxes that you would be having to pay. And with the old legislation, you only would have been able to deduct that $10,000. Now with this new tax bill, you'd be able to deduct the full $21,000 with this example. Now let's move on to his sixth proposal, which was buy American tax incentives. During his entire campaign, Trump emphasized helping building and growing American manufacturers and American workers. Now, with this, there are a lot of different restrictions. So remember how earlier in this video, I mentioned that brand new deduction, which is the interest loan deduction? You are actually only allowed to get that deduction if that vehicle is made in America. And another key factor in that is that the vehicle has to be a new vehicle with the final assembly being in the United States. Now, although this is a great tax benefit, it really isn't going to benefit everyone because not everyone can afford a brand new car. There are a lot of people who mainly purchase used vehicles or certified used vehicles. But just like with any tax bill or any bill in general, there's always going to be good and bad and some things that benefit everyone and some things that benefit only a small group of individuals. Now let's move into the next proposal, which was supporting American families. Now this is another one that was debated a lot, and Donald Trump, he also really didn't give specific details on what he wanted, but what he did say was he wanted to enhance support for American families. Now, the debate was very back and forth between the House and the Senate. The House wanted the new child tax credit to be $2,500. The Senate wanted it to be $2,200. Current law was $2,000. And outside of that difference, the only other difference between the House and the Senate was that the House wanted this to be temporary, meaning that 2,500 would only be the amount you'd be getting through 2028. And then after 2028, it would revert back to 2,000. Now, the Senate, they wanted to make it permanent at 2,200. So it wouldn't revert back to the 2,000 that it was. Now, either way, the House version or the Senate version, they deliver on the promise of enhancing support because child tax credit was raised. Although all of his promises weren't delivered, what was delivered is actually more beneficial from a tax perspective because you will be saving more in taxes. But what I suggest for you guys to do is focus on the proposals that was actually passed. For instance, a lot of seniors are upset because a good majority of them voted for Donald Trump because they wanted no tax on Social Security. Even though they did get support, that's not what the vast majority of them voted for. What you should focus on is what was delivered because that is how you can actually focus on what you can do to help yourself save on taxes. Your main expense, although you may not see it, is taxes. And the reason why you don't see it is because most people don't look at their pay stubs. Taxes get taken out automatically. And not only are you paying taxes on the income that you make, you pay taxes when you spend that money. You pay taxes when you invest money. There's federal income tax, there's state income tax, there's property tax, there's sales tax. There's so many different types of taxes. So implementing strategies and taking advantage of the proposals that were actually delivered is what you should be focusing on, not what wasn't passed or arguing about politics, because this video is not a political video. It's just stating the facts on what was passed and what you can do to help your current tax situation. So things like no tax on tips up to $25,000, no tax on overtime up to $12,500, $40,000 SALT deduction, a $200 increase in the child tax credit. So overall, there was a lot that happened with this tax bill, and it honestly is the biggest tax legislation in American history. And for future reference, I don't want you guys to just go off of campaign promises because things always change. As soon as it hits legislation, things get modified. Now, if you like this video and you want more videos like this, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any other future videos. And if you are a business owner or a content creator looking to save $30,000 plus in taxes annually, make sure you text the word 30K to 845-222-1477 so you can book yourself a consultation. My name is Ricky, owner of Ricky and Nikki Accounting Services, and I hope you enjoyed this video.